Hello, I'm Dan.
I'm Simon.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article each week and we talk about what we find. Simon, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Daniel, we are talking about permanent representative of Colombia to the United Nations.
Wow, okay.
To give it its full title, I can give you the title in Spanish, which is Representante Permanente de Colombia ante las Naciones Unidas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's as soon as I randomized, this was true to Clark-Catholicism. This was the first article that came up in the randomizer, and I was like, yes, this is
perfect.
This is good.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not very much here. Basically, there's if Dan's intro seemed rushed to you, dear reader, that is because we are in a massive rush. This is probably the most rapid we've had to be in putting together a podcast because your life is just so busy this week.
I've not been in the house. I got into the house as I was setting up. I was frying eggs and bacon in a pan because I haven't eaten yet today. I wolfed those down. I didn't even use a plate. I ate them out of the pan and then came and sat down, made a cup of tea, called you. I was like, right, let's go. Let's do this. I've been on campus all morning vocal coaching for Exeter University Opera Society, which is a new society that's just been made. And they have their inaugural concert on Saturday. Which is very exciting, but it also means that there's lots of people who are wanting to meet to go over things, and that's my job.
So before we get on to your vocal coaching and a lot of other topics, which I think it's important we talk about this week, shall we briefly talk about this article? So I'll read you the blurb at the top. The permanent representative of Colombia to the United Nations is the permanent representative of the Republic of Colombia to the United Nations.
Wow.
I know, right? It's like Fight Club.
Accredited. Are you having a stroke, mate? You're right.
Why can't I read that? Accredited. Accredited. There you
it's
go.
like pocketed it in Harry Potter in the Stephen Fry. Yeah.
Okay, so he pocketed it as. I can't say it. Oh my god! I feel I'm being rushed.
Because you want to say accredited, right?
Yeah, I do. I just can't. Apparently,
glad we cleared that up.
Accredited. Hang on, this is scintillating listening. Accredited as concurrent non-resident ambassador to the Republic of Kosovo and Montenegro. Wait, what?
Hang on.
Name something that Colombia, Kosovo, and Montenegro have in common. Like, what? Why are those folded into one?
I have absolutely no idea.
So I guess does Montenegro just not have an ambassador normally? And so they were like, well, we'll kick up their responsibilities. You're also representing the country of Montenegro and the Republic of Kosovo as well as
sidelined.
Yeah.
Jesus.
We'll just pawn you off onto somebody else, you know. So the permanent representative is Colombia's foremost diplomatic representative to the UN and chief of mission in New York City. The permanent representative, however, is not the only high-ranking Colombian diplomat in the United States, the other two being the permanent representative of Colombia to the Organization of American States in Washington, D.C., and the ambassador of Colombia to the United States. So those are two different things.
That's so weird.
The Organization of American States, so presumably that's like both North and South American countries. I guess. And then there is one to the United States, which is what I was expecting. The office holder is charged with representing the interests of the president and government of Colombia. Notice that's not the people. And advancing the relations of between Colombia and the general world community. So I just clicked on this. We were. I think our gut instinct was right there. Organization of American States is a continental organization that is like solidarity amongst South and North American countries. Basically, but I have read you almost all of the text on this page because there's now a list. Basically, the post was founded in 1946, and there's a list of all the people that have held it since then. The current incumbent is Maria Emma Mejia Velez. I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to pronounce South American Spanish. I know how you'd say that in Castilian, and it would sound different, but I'm not sure. But it's a $10,000. It's a post that pays $10,000 a month. Oh, I read that as Oh, I read that as yearly, and it's no. I think that's $10,000 a month. That's actually pretty good. And Maria gets to be called Her Excellency.
Wow.
So there you go.
Congratulations to Maria, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, we solved the problem.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by
the permanent representative of Colombia to the United Nations.
Yeah.
So I am slightly confused by this, though. So I guess just not every country has a permanent representative to the UN. So smaller countries are kind of allocated to, a bigger. So I'm just going to look at the one for the UK. Do you know who the UK's permanent representative to the UN is?
I've absolutely no idea.
It's Karen Pierce, CBE. Very recently appointed. She was appointed exactly 2 months ago on the 22nd of January.
Wow.
So that's fun. But we don't seem to represent anyone else. It's just, for the UK. I mean, I don't know if I pick... But name another country. I'll see if they have a permanent representative.
France.
Yeah, France has a permanent representative, and they represent... apparently just France as well. Colombia really got the end of the stick, didn't they? They had to represent 3 countries.
France isn't so bad. I mean, I suppose if you think about the UK representatives, they're then representing England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, but they are one entity with regards to international law. This is where we have our readers who are MUN people are going to come searing in on this. I have to admit, as somebody who has had a fair bit to do with the MUN, that was completely new to me. I had no idea that sometimes you were responsible for more than one country at once.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm just clicking through a few countries' permanent representatives, and I haven't found one yet that has another like multiple responsibilities. Also, at the bottom here, so there's a box, how you have at the bottom of some wiki articles, and there's permanent representatives to the UN broken down by continent. But then there's also, I knew this already, but I didn't know one of these was, there are also what are called permanent observers at the UN. So for these are for countries that people kind of recognise are countries, but they don't have voting rights, I believe.
Right.
They're there to see. Now, do you want to guess? There are 3 countries, or 3... yeah, they are countries. Do you want to guess who they might be?
Kind of a clue as to where are these countries in Europe? Are they in the Middle East?
2 are in Europe, 1 is in the Middle East, and they're all very small.
Luxembourg?
Nope. Luxembourg has its own permanent representative.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
There's 2 in Europe, you say, and 1 in the Middle East?
2 in Europe, 1 in the Middle East, yeah. I will give you a clue. We've been to one of them.
Oh, really?
This was the one that surprised me.
Malta?
Yeah, the permanent observers, to put you and our readers out of their misery, the permanent observers are the Holy See, which is... Now, that is distinct from the Vatican City, isn't it? Yeah, the Holy See is the jurisdiction of the Catholic Church in Rome. It's like the church itself, as opposed to the Vatican, which is like a territory. So that's one. Palestine is another one, because they're an international football that gets kicked around seemingly forever. And the last one is the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. So
that's interesting.
Not the country. It's this is fascinating. So I'll read you the start of their article as well. The Sovereign Military Hospitaller Order of St. John of Jerusalem, of Rhodes, and of Malta, also known as the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, or Order of Malta, is a Roman Catholic lay religious order traditionally of military, chivalrous, and noble nature. It was founded as the Knights Hospitaller, or Hospitalia, however you pronounce it, circa 1099 in Jerusalem by the Blessed Gerard, making it the world's oldest surviving chivalric order. So this is an order of knights that have a permanent representative at the United Nations.
That's cool.
That's so cool.
The United Nations.
Yeah, I mean, in theory.
Yeah. Awesome.
But it says here that the order is an elective monarchy and ruled by a prince and grand master. Who's the current grand master? That's such a cool title. The current grand master is it's vacant.
Better apply.
Yeah, get our applications. How do we apply?
You have to download a form.
That's probably it. I mean, the fact we're not Catholic might be a problem.
Yeah.
I can tell you that these names are fucking amazing. Okay. So there are other representatives in the order, and I'm going to mangle these pronunciations, so I apologize in advance. The Grand Hospitaller is Dominique de la Rochefoucauld Montalbel.
Right.
The Grand Chancellor is Albrecht Freiherr von Boeselager. The Grand Commander is Ludwig Hoffmann von Rummerstein. And the Lieutenant of the Grand Master is Giacomo dalla Torre.
Wow.
This is a Dan Brown novel that's come to life.
Yeah. That's very cool.
That is so
we
cool.
We went to a load of the Knights Hospitaller places, didn't we?
We did. We went to the hospital. Because I listened to a really interesting In Our Time about the Siege of Malta, actually, and about the Knights Hospitaller, kind of how they fitted into it. They were apparently very unusual as a religious order I think this was in Jerusalem, and that they had a hospital there, and they were noted for treating anybody regardless of religion, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, we went to, I think this hospital post-dated the siege, I want to say. I think it might have been built after the attack, and it was like, shoring up the island. But it was quite a big complex, wasn't it? How would you describe it?
It was like this monolith on a hill as we kind of like approached it. And it didn't look especially like knighty. You know what I mean? Like it was just, and it was only when you got inside and we started walking around, and it was just this labyrinth of tunnels going deeper and deeper into the Rock of Malta. It's a really cool place.
Hang on, are you thinking of the catacombs, or are you thinking of the hospital? Because the hospital. That wasn't on top of the hill, though, was it? That was I thought that was we ended up walking downhill for ages, and then like.
Don't think so.
Okay, I mean, this was a little while ago. I didn't think it was on a hill, but this is irrelevant to the podcast. But yeah, so we actually have some connection to this. But so here we go. Like, I'm just sort of scrolling down here. Widely considered a sovereign subject of international law, the Order maintains diplomatic relations with 107 states. It has UN permanent observer status, as we now know, enters into treaties, and issues its own passports, coins, and postage stamps.
Wow.
I'd never realised that, like, because this is, like a massive Catholic order of knights.
I didn't know they had that whole, passports, coins and stamps. That's awesome. I wonder what they look like. Oh, I want a stamp.
Knights Hospitaller stamp. That'd be cool. Yeah. So I'm just gonna. It also says here in terms of their size, the population estimate is 2 citizens. I guess that's because they're the people that live on their land permanently, but it has 13,500 members, 80,000 volunteers, and 42,000 employees. And they are doctors, nurses, auxiliaries, and paramedics in more than 120 countries, assisting children, homeless, handicapped, refugees, elders, terminally ill, and lepers around the world, without distinction of ethnicity or religion. Wow. Hive mind right there. I mean, subject to further details, they sound like a bunch of top lads.
They do.
I mean, so there's relations with the Republic of Malta. Here we go. So they've got treaties with the Republic of Malta, and they have limited extraterritoriality. I think I said that right. Of the upper portion of Fort St. Angelo in the city of Burgu. I don't know if we went there or not. Don't
think so.
And that's like a headquarters, it seems. Wow, this is so cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
So, from Clark-Catholicism has come out trumps again, because from an article that didn't really have a huge amount in it, I have learned something really interesting today. Well, a couple of interesting things. Yes, so we're gonna we'll backtrack then. We actually concluded a tangent, and you are now an opera voice coach. Is that right?
Well, this is the thing. So I'm one of the vocal coaches for Exeter University Opera Society. So I kind of do a bit of, like if we've got soloists who want to go over their pieces one-on-one, and then I'll kind of like try and give some advice. It's obviously up to them, because I'm not a legitimate voice coach. I just kind of go off what I've learned over years.
I didn't want to say, but like...
yeah, but this is the thing. So I do make it very clear that being like, look, the advice I'm going to give you is what I would be doing in this situation, and I think it will make your life easier, and it will make for a more pleasant sound. If you absolutely disagree, or you just don't get it, then don't do it. That's not.
I'm not your boss.
I can't. Yeah, I'm not your boss. Nor do I have like a diploma or degree in vocal coaching. But yeah, so it'll be a mixture of kind of working with Harry, who's the organ scholar of the chapel choir, who's a very, very gifted pianist and organ player, to kind of making sure that things are all together in terms of him playing like continuo parts for different soloists, and then working with soloists, and Luke Stevenson, the MD, who was the co-MD of Mikado with me, so we work really well together anyway, just to kind of like plan the music and things. But it's going to be very exciting. It's the first one. Opera Sock has only just really began this term. We're making a pretty good sound. It's on Saturday at 8:00, I believe, in St Stephen's Church on the High Street of Exeter. So if anyone's wants to go, come to that. It's already got quite a few people going. I think a lot of the music societies on campus are trying to go to kind of support it, because it's it's going to be a good time to make themselves fairly well known.
And that should be immediately after this podcast comes out. So organised readers in Exeter can get on it. But you, the day before, as we were talking about briefly before we started recording, you've got a very exciting concert. Yeah,
so I part of being comically busy means that you forget about the things that you said that you're going to go and do. One of the things I forgot that I was going to do was I'm going to go and see a Dodie Clark concert in Bristol tomorrow, which is very exciting. I'm not thinking about it too much because I'm worried that what's going to happen is like when our famous encounter in VidCon, where I was basically like, I'm going to be fine. I don't know what all the fuss is about. And then I actually see her face and go, okay, no, I'm gonna fall over now. So it should be really fun. I'm looking forward to it. I've been listening to lots of her music this week to kind of get back into the zone. Been playing some of it on my guitar and ukulele because I'm that much of a fangirl. But it should be really good. I'm going up with Anna and Alice, who are two girls and singers. They've kind of like organised the tickets and the getting there and the getting back. Every now and then they'll message me for money and I just send it to them.
You still don't know what time your train is, do you?
No. I'm fairly sure it's something like 9:30 tomorrow morning.
So are you spending the day in Bristol before the concert as well? Or what are you doing?
Yeah, so we're going to be in Bristol. We're going to be in Bristol from about 11:30, I think. And then we'll have a wander about. And I've never been to Bristol, so...
Oh, of course, because you when you've done the Bath tour before, when we did the Bath tour with Chapel Choir, we did Bath and Bristol, but when you joined, we didn't. So unfortunately, I have a relatively busy day tomorrow because I've got to get a video out on Saturday, and I also have a driving lesson. I don't know. Have we talked about me learning to drive in the vlog yet?
No.
Oh, sorry. That's another thing. Actually, I started vlogging again. That's fun. But also, I've been learning to drive the past couple of weeks.
Cool. How's that going?
It's actually really fun. I was expecting to be terrible at driving, but because basically when I was 17, I did motorbike training because I didn't want to have to pay for a car. A bike was cheaper, and I didn't have to get anyone a lift, and it looks cool. So I did basic bike training, and I really struggled with the gears. There was something in my brain that just wasn't. Because with gears on a bike, you change with your left foot above, like, imagine like there's a footrest and then there's like a little bar that sticks out and you put it up and down to go up and down gears. Yeah. You also have a clutch on one of your hands and then you have the accelerator on your other hand. So it's three body parts simultaneously, just like in a car. And because I struggled with the bike, I thought I'd struggle with the car. But it turns out, actually, I've been fine. I've only had 3 lessons, but we've already done... much more than I would expect to have done in that time, like I've gone to the local high street, we've done a bunch of sort of like clutch control going up the hill, like in sort of first gear. Just I don't know, it's I've taken to it much more easily than I expected to.
Like a duck to water.
Literally like a duck to water. Well, not quite like a duck to water. I'm not bombing around at like 60 miles an hour completely comfortably, because that would be irresponsible. But also, my hometown is basically entirely 20-mile-an-hour limits. Like it's insane. Like the even big roads, because they're quite close to a school, you're just like, this feels criminally slow. Like cars are backing up behind me because they're normally going to do 30 along here, and which is illegal but understandable. Not that I condone it. And I'm just there like, oh god, I feel like such a square trundling along at 20 miles an hour. So I've got a lesson tomorrow morning. Otherwise, I would probably, and then I have to do all this editing. So otherwise, I would probably come and join you. We will next time there's an opportunity. We will get you up to Bristol, and we'll do some stuff for Spongy and Electric though, for sure. I am very determined to make that happen.
I'm really looking forward to having a wander around, because, as I say, I haven't been before. It's interesting actually you say that you've just started driving, because both of my younger brothers, Oliver passed his test, I think about a month ago, and then Joe passed his yesterday.
Oh, congrats!
Yeah, so they're both on the road now,
which
is
10 years younger
hilarious.
Than me.
Yeah.
I've not needed to use it. That's why I haven't learned yet. I just haven't.
Well, it's the same. It's the same with me. I had lessons in Australia, but granted that was in an automatic as well. Which, to be honest, I think with the added revenue coming in from work, I think I might start just having a lesson a week just to kind of get back into it. Because I imagine when I get back to where I was, it wouldn't be too long until I have to take my test. The only thing that may change that is whether I decide to go manual or not.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, I know Americans mostly drive automatic cars.
Yeah.
And so do most Australians?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, certainly, I learnt and was driving in an automatic.
Basically, I don't know how unusual the UK is in I would guess like 90 to 95% of the cars on the road or vehicles on the road are manual. I don't know how. It's in my head that's normal, but of course that's because that's what I've grown up with. But I think most people in certainly Western Europe drive manual cars, don't they?
Yeah, I think it's definitely got its. Obviously, if you learn in a manual car, if you have to ever go overseas, or you need to hire a car, or you need to get somewhere, or you need to drive somebody else's car, and it's a manual, and you've only learned in automatic, then there's a slight limit there. But equally, I certainly would, if I learnt in a manual car and got a license in a manual car, I'd want to be driving an automatic anyway. So
really?
Part of me is like, well, it's much nicer. And by nicer, I mean easier.
Yeah, I was gonna say
because you don't have to do nearly as many things.
Yeah, I mean,
but equally, it comes down to I'd want to take it at some point because there's classic cars that I like, and if I wanted like an original Mini from the 50s and 60s, then you're not going to get an automatic. So
yeah, I mean, it's a one-way thing, right? If you learn manual, you can drive an automatic. If you've only learned automatic, you can't expect to drive a manual because it's definitely more complicated. And it frees you up in terms of travel, I think. But I don't know, it isn't as complicated as I expected it to be. Possibly because I'm coming into it thinking it's going to be horrendously difficult, and actually, of course, billions of people drive cars. So
yeah,
it's not been too bad. But the other thing to briefly mention is that I have started weekly vlogging again. In fact, this very morning I just released the first episode, and just before you called me, I was putting together the next episode. I think in my head this is the spiritual successor, the much less interesting and much less funny spiritual successor to Tom Scar's last week, which works because he's a very funny guy. I am not, so there's a slight problem with my cunning plan here. But I don't know, I've really enjoyed doing it. I've missed doing vlogging actually, because I haven't vlogged since like a weekly vlog since I was in New York, and that was the vlog that never came out because all the footage was unusable. It has been surprisingly fun just to do a little bit every day and try and find a narrative and to try and work out what this format's going to be. But I feel like I've got a kind of an identity to it now. There's like a set of music, there's a set of fonts, there's a set of assets that I think define the series. So it's been really interesting, and I'm kind of scared about doing it into infinity now. There's no clear endpoint. I'm just going to do this until people beg me to stop doing it anymore. But yeah, it's a little bit worrying because there's oh god, it's a little bit worrying because oh boy, in the new vlog my Bristolian came out so bad.
Oh really?
There's a moment when I'm talking about editing. And I'm just like, so this is how I learned. But yeah, if you want my recommendations, out of nowhere. But yeah, I can't help but be worried about it because it's different. Before it was the PhD vlogs. This is you want to watch this guy because he's doing a PhD. If you want to learn what it is like to do one, that's what his videos are about. Now it is a bit. It's like last week in that. Hey, I'm just going to chronicle my life, which is a very arrogant statement. It's like I think my life is interesting enough to merit being chronicled and distributed to 100,000 people. I think I have to be aware at least that is a very arrogant thing to do. And I think what I'm trying to do with it, certainly this week, because of something which I am going to come on to in just a second, I'm determined to try and use the format for good, like to try and communicate useful stuff to people and to engage with interesting things, more than just this is what I've been up to, kind of thing. Because the thing that I've been talking about this week and will link into next week is, of course, the massive, horrible stuff that's been coming out of Exeter. With the whole, I don't even know what to call it.
The Bracton Law Society gate.
Yeah, Bracton Law Society gate, which for readers who are blissfully unaware, I envy you. Basically, a law society on campus, because there are several law societies, aren't there? This is one. Basically,
Bracton Law. If I'm right, I think I'm right in saying that it's the largest and the oldest.
Okay, right.
Law society.
So certainly one of the societies. Basically, a bunch of people on their committee were in a WhatsApp. And there was these screenshots was leaked with really, really unforgivable language and sentiments going around. It was racist, it was sexist, it was everything that you kind of hoped wouldn't be a thing in 2018, basically. Yeah. And it has kind of opened this can of worms of people talking about Exeter in terms of, is the institution racist? And is there a problem in the student community? And I was specifically called out, actually, by, I don't know if you're familiar with Ibs Mo.
Name rings a bell.
So he was a YouTuber who's at Cambridge, who applied to Exeter, but he did a whole long video about like how his application, he got messed around by Exeter massively, and he really doesn't like the institution. And so when this incident came up, he was like, I told you that there was a toxic environment for BMEs, like black and minority ethnic students, and that this is not a uni that I think, to paraphrase what he was saying, this is a uni that brown people shouldn't go to, was basically what he was saying. And I have since learned that Exeter actually has the lowest BME enrollment of any UK uni, which doesn't surprise me if you look around campus. And you know, he called me out in this video saying, Simon Oxford, he was very respectful about the whole thing. I'd like to say, it's like, I'm not saying that you're part of this problem. You are like the GOAT of Oxbridge vloggers. You are like the most prominent student vlogger. Why haven't you talked about this in your vlogs at Exeter? And like, in my response to him in a comment, and as I talk about in the vlog, my vlogs have only ever been, this is my personal experience at Exeter. You know, this is what my life is like. This is what my friends' lives have been like in chapel choir and in my PhD office. And in the weeks that we've been filming, that I have been filming, racism didn't directly affect me because I am a white dude in a very white university. So it didn't directly affect me, and moreover, there weren't any, as far as I remember, I'm willing to be proved wrong, there weren't any massive scandals which happened of this magnitude in weeks we were filming. So it wasn't like part of the discourse. So it was. I think it would have been ham-fisted for me to be like, suddenly, let's talk about racism. Isn't racism bad? You know, because I didn't have any personal experience of it, which would have been jarring with the whole like way that my channel works, and it would have been disingenuous and probably would have ended up being offensive. I mean, do you have a particular take on? Okay, perhaps the question to ask you is: does the content of the WhatsApp surprise you in the context of student society at Exeter?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole way that this kind of leak, if you like, has been managed, it is poor. I think the only reason why it's generated such, because media hellfire and storm, is because things were leaked on Facebook, which I don't know was the right thing to do, because the guild were notified about this, and from what I've been told from discussing with people who are more closely affected or part of the issue, the guild said, well, we're going to start conducting investigations, and an individual who leaked the screenshots, because he basically said they're taking too long. And that's really damaged how everything's going to be managed now. Yeah, so the student guild, which is the student union at Exeter University, it was reported to them, and the guild said that they'd be conducting investigations, which is how it should be done. It should be managed internally. Now the fact that it's been leaked, and you've got BBC UK-wide news reporting on it. In fact, I was walking home from opera sock rehearsals just yesterday or the day before, and there was a BBC Spotlight interview going on just outside, near the chapel, actually. There was a reporter going through, it's like, kind of summarising what was going on. I kind of hung about and had a listen for a bit. But the issue is what's been said and the conduct of those involved is inexcusable. I'm not justifying anything that they've done at all. I think there is there is freedom of freedom of speech is there for a reason. I think it was a massive oversight on them to have to discuss those kind of things, their kind of personal views in such an apparently public forum, because they knew that there were unknown phone numbers in that group chat. Which is just a really stupid thing to do. But most importantly, because this leak has happened now, those involved, I think, should be expelled from the uni. I don't see how there's no reason to keep them there, and the university and the guild need to set a really, really strong standard of being like, this is not in any way acceptable. You're gone.
And they have already suspended them. The students and the society.
They've been suspended, but they need to go. They need to be formally
I agree. That needs to be permanent.
Kicked. Yeah. The other issue too, though, is because of the nature of what was being said in that chat, there's quite strong grounds to take very, very strict and what may appear as extreme legal action, as in court and potentially jail, because they've been in this. There's instances of inciting racial hatred, for one.
Yep.
There's coercion.
Yep.
So there's massive things here, but. For those to go through and be passed in a court is going to be really complicated, because the individuals involved will not be able to be granted a free trial, or a fair trial, because it's received such massive media attention.
Because I disagree with you. I disagree with you that like the person who leaked it was wrong to do so. I don't think why they did it.
I don't think he was wrong to do it. I think he should have waited. There's a process, and he didn't give that process fair time. If the guild, from what I've been told, the guild said, we're going to be conducting investigations in the next couple of weeks, and the guy gave it about 4 days, and then as soon as it goes online, I think that's potentially going to do more harm than good in terms of managing this as a case at the university.
But I feel like, I think if I was in that situation, given the severity of what was being discussed, it's really like it is hate crime level. It is really revolting stuff.
Yeah.
I think if an institution that I was at, and if I felt like I was part of a minority that was being discriminated against by students at the university, if I didn't see action in a couple of days, like I don't understand how the university's initial reaction wasn't suspend the students. Like, I can completely understand why they'd be like, I've got to force the hand. This is, that ties into a narrative of me. Sorry.
It wasn't their reaction, because it didn't go to the university. It went to the guild, and then the guild have to manage it internally and then pass it on to the uni, which is what I mean. It can potentially overcomplicate, but there is a process for a reason. And by subverting that process, I think they're going to be causing more. It's going to be causing more issues, not only for the individuals involved, who, and don't get me wrong, they deserve everything that's coming to them, but also because these kind of affairs now are going to be it's going to be a massive struggle to handle it internally within the university. The number of investigations and kind of harassment and things that are going to be the wider community are now going to be affected by. This could have been avoided if due process was observed by the university. But
don't you think this has drawn much more attention than otherwise would have been drawn to the issues at hand? Like, because the difficulty, there's a fundamental difficulty here, which is that we are two white boys talking about this issue. We are not aware of any kind of systematic institutional racism at Exeter, because we aren't going to be at the receiving end of it. And we're not going to see it, which isn't anything that we can help. It's because we're white, right? We just don't. even if it's right in front of our eyes, even if there are like microaggressions and all these things that make a kind of a hostile environment for people in a minority, we're not going to notice it, even if it's right in front of us. So it's difficult for us to to recognize that there is a problem. And I feel like the attention that's been given to it has potentially kind of blown the lid off it, if that makes sense. Like, it's finally making people see, look, don't you think this is worrying? Like, do you think this is the only case of this happening? Like, I feel like the screenshots being leaked, which I agree there is a process that should be followed, but the screenshots being leaked, I think, will accelerate the process of necessary change at the university. And I don't necessarily mean like institutional change, more of like a kind of student body, student society change, if that makes any sense.
This is the thing. I think it's really, really important, certainly from my experience at Exeter University. I have absolutely no reason to believe whatsoever that what's happened here may be a reflection of like a kind of like an epidemic of institutional bigotry. I have no reason to believe that Exeter University as an institution has any of that. Their moral compass is so skewed. I think this is a case of privileged white boys. Oh, shock horror! They're studying law, having these kind of conversations. It's no secret that Exeter University's kind of demographic of students is the kind of the wealthy or the moderately wealthy, and as such, I think a kind of a privileged background is part of that. I just think that it's for something so kind of volatile as a kind of a topic and as something that's happened. It would be a better process to observe process rather than letting things spiral out and as you say, like, blow the lid off it, because it's already such a vile, emotionally charged, horrible thing to have happened anyway. For it now to be receiving notice on like a national or international level, it's just going to overcomplicate things. And again, I'm super conscious of not trying to say like I do, and I in no way am trying to excuse or soften the blow that the individuals involved to receive. I think they do need the hardest and harshest punishments available, because it's deplorable what they've done, and what they have been doing. Equally, that's the reason that process is there is to protect the university and the students at that university. And the students at the university who may have been involved or may not have been involved at all, but are now going to be caught up in this storm. The university is going to find it really, really hard to try and give them that protection. That's what I think it comes down to. Imagine if you're a law student. Imagine if you're part of that society, or even if you're studying law and you've got a mutual friend with someone who was there. You might not even know them, but you're now affiliated with that, or you're going to be part of a graduating year whose presidents of a law society in that year were done for these things. It's going to be a massive impact on them. Which is why, if it was managed internally first, and yes, maybe the process would have taken a little longer. But at least they can through those investigations they can almost quarantine what's been going wrong and have a little bit more time to think things through and think about how they're going to tackle it, rather than having to make any rash, fast decisions because it's on the front page of BBC News.
But don't you think that the more important thing is the eradication of this kind of thinking, this kind of behaviour? I think. To me, I mean, this is ultimately, it comes down to like kind of a sociological question, but like that to me is more important than the safeguarding of people who are, by 2 degrees of separation, caught up in the incident. Like, even if they themselves don't have any of these beliefs, like, I don't know, to me that seems more important, to make the campus a place that is welcoming to a student regardless of background. And the other thing is, I think we are, again, it's a limitation of the fact we're looking at this from the position of the majority. I feel like if you are a minority student, as in a student in a minority, if you're BME, and you feel like the institution, you have a sense that the institution you're at is institutionally biased against you, and you feel like the system that is in place to safeguard you and to try and prevent something like this from happening, if you feel like that is failing you, then it's very much a case of by taking action and by doing something like leaking screenshots, you are seizing the power in the situation, because you feel presumably completely powerless. You know, if you are part of a minority and you feel like, well, the system is failing me, like, I have to do something, because if I don't do something, nothing will happen.
This is where it gets complicated, because both you and me cannot even, we can't chime in on the debate of whether a student at Exeter University feels like the institution is biased towards them. Because not only would we wouldn't have encountered it, nor do I know anyone of kind of minority background who's felt that way. Obviously, if it's to that extreme, then you've got to take whatever action is necessary. But that's where I think this debate may spiral into something that's not what it's about. I don't think that it is a kind of an institution issue. I think it ultimately, fundamentally comes down to that Exeter University doesn't have enough oversight and kind of control over its societies. I think that's the bigger issue here, and that's been made clear with this Bracton Law Society incident. It's been made clear with the rugby society. It's been made clear with the safe sex ball. There's been instances where it's been a societal problem within the guild. And it again, it kind of comes back to this whole issue that students at Exeter University talk about all the time, in that the guild and the university are so often in such conflict, not because they don't agree, but they don't communicate. That I think is the bigger issue.
So you think that more regulation of student activities by the guild and better communication between the guild and the university, that's the issue that's really at hand?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, as we've said multiple times, we are not the people who are qualified to talk about this, because we can only relate on our experiences. And as we said, I think the best that we can do, given that we have a platform, certainly, on my YouTube channel, I have a platform, is to say, look, I am not qualified to be able to talk about this. Clearly I am not. I can't imagine the situation. I think the best we can do is to offer that platform to people who are qualified. And that's certainly exactly next week. So when I'm down in Exeter on Monday, I've got a friend, Penny, who I'm going to be talking to in the vlog, and I basically just want to ask her a couple of questions and then give her the floor and say, ask, does this incident surprise you? Do you think there's a problem? What do you think can be done to fix it? The floor is yours. I want you to say, to use this opportunity. What do you think is important to say right now? Because I think that's the best thing I can do. I don't want to come across as white saviory, for one thing. Like I want to be a person with a large platform, using it responsibly. I think that's the best way to do it. But I think the other thing we can do is, if there are students at Exeter who are listening to this, and you feel and you have an opinion on this, and that can be one way or the other. You can agree with the steps the university has taken and disagree with the leaking of the screenshots. You can disagree with the notion that there is a serious institutional problem at Exeter, or you can agree with that notion. I highly encourage Exeter students and BME students at Exeter to email in, and I think I would love to, next episode, have a big discussion of this, because the more viewpoints we can draw on, and I think in a way the best thing we can do, that Dan and I can do, is to just kind of take a step back and say, look, we're going to read these emails out. We want your honest experiences, your thoughts, because we've said our piece, and as is clear, we are not equipped to talk about this.
Not at all.
And I think the best that we can do is to let people who are equipped lead this discussion, because at the end of the day, we have a responsibility as as owners of a large platform, but also, I know that the university is aware of what we do, and I think it's fair. I kind of what's the phrase? I guess I'm trying to give the university a fair trial. Like, I don't want to blindly support the university and say that there's not a problem here at all. Equally, I don't want to sort of slate the university without, again, blindly, and not reconsider the evidence or the arguments. I think it's important that we try and offer as many sides to this argument as possible with the forums that we have available to us. So if you're a BME Exeter student, email in. I am very interested to get your opinions on this, because this is a serious topic. We've derailed our ostensibly comedy podcast to talk about this horrific incident, which I'm hoping we can kind of close the book on it for now for this episode. I'm very interested next episode to open it up again and have more of a discussion. But I think it's this basically shows how serious this is, and I hope we can convince people how seriously Exeter students are taking this. Because this podcast is meant to be fun and light and frothy and talk about Wikipedia, and we've ended up talking about really horrible people. I mean the students. Yeah. Oh my god, that could be taken out of context. I mean the students in the WhatsApp group. Christ.
God. And we're going to mosey on down now to Critics' Corner. We're going to ensconce ourselves in this warm little nook and discuss
that word again.
What we've been watching.
We haven't heard the word ensconce for a little while.
Oh, it's a great word. It's a great word. Simon, what have you been watching this week?
I haven't watched a great deal. There are two things I'd like to highlight. One of which was live streaming on my telly, the University of Exeter Chapel Choir singing Evensong, which was great. Really, it was surprisingly good quality, actually. Again, I assume it was Michael's phone.
Yeah, well, apparently the last time he recorded it, he used the front-facing camera.
Yes, we didn't use it for the Christmas service. The Christmas service was the back camera, but it was quite dark, so you couldn't tell. But on the TV, quite a big TV we have here, really. It looked great, and it sounded pretty good. I mean, the choir sounded great, but the sound quality was pretty decent. I'll include a link to that in the show notes.
Given it's not an especially tech savvy nor effective setup. It's literally a phone mounted on a wall going through Facebook. But also we used the right camera for this Evensong, and Michael was connected to the Wi-Fi because last time he was doing it off his data.
Yeah, which isn't. I mean, it works. It's just not the best. Whereas on Monday, when I'm coming down, we are going to be trying out a new setup with some nice, expensive microphones going into a proper bit of streaming software. So I have no idea if it's going to work or not. We might end up just using a phone again. But I've got an idea that I want to try because I'm hopefully going to be getting into streaming relatively soon. I know I've been saying that for ages, but something interesting's been happening behind the scenes, which I can't talk about. But hopefully, very soon, I'm gonna do a couple of trial broadcasts, and this is like me putting my toes in the water and being like, oh, that's quite warm. We'll use those microphones. But yeah, that was really good. My mum was watching and was like, "Where's Dan?" And I was like, "Oh, he's just down there." She described the back row as like what was it? Like a row of jagged teeth, or like a boxer's mouth or something. Because you've got Corin and Hugo, massive tall lads. You and Sam, and then it's Luke on the end of your side, isn't it?
Yeah. He's a tall boy.
Yeah, he's a very tall boy. Luke Spray His Goo, that's his name.
And did you see Ed's? You would have seen Ed's new haircut too.
Yeah, he's rocking the Train Spotting look. Can I ask? Why?
I came home. I don't know. I came home one day and then he mentioned he might do it, and then I got up to work the next day, and then just as I was on my lunch break, he sent me a photo of a load of hair in the sink, and I was like, "Oh my god, he's actually done it! He shaved his head." And then it's progressively getting shorter. He shaved it to about 1 centimeter, I think, and now he's gradually taking more and more off until I think eventually he's going to have to. I said, like, "All right, mate, you've got to commit. You've got to go the whole hog. Take a kind of like a razor to your scalp.
Yeah, literally.
Completely go the whole thing.
I want to be able to put your head into a bowling ball shiner, Ed, and come out, and you'll be like the Pharos Lighthouse. Because Mum was like, "Where's Ed?" And I pointed out he's the dude with the not very much hair, and she just like kind of sighed and was like, "Oh, I bet he didn't even clean it up afterwards." My mum has such a low opinion of Ed.
There's a plastic bag in the corner of the room. I can see it from where I'm recording, and that's just full of his hair.
What, he kept it?
It's pretty vile.
Why would you keep it? I don't understand.
I don't know. He brought it over and he's like, "Do you want to feel it?" I was like, "No,
no,
I really, really don't want to."
And the other thing which I watched briefly, before I turn the floor over, give the bridge over to Dan, I watched the new video from Captain Disillusion, which is possibly the best science YouTuber parody I think I've ever seen. It's actually, because I don't know if you've seen. Do you know him, Captain Disillusion? Have you seen his videos?
No.
So he's the dude, you might recognize him, who has like the lower half of his face is painted silver. And he has it's kind of a unique style, like it's kind of difficult to describe. But basically he did this video which is he was asked to debunk this like invisibility cloak, which is clearly using green screen. Like just the dude with like a green cloth, well, except it's blue cloth because he's surrounded by plants. And then he does the science of how green screen works and how historically it worked, how we do it in editing software, and then like how he does it. And by doing it, he parodies Professor oh god, what's it? Is it Polyakov from Periodic Videos? What's the dude's name? I have completely forgotten that guy's name.
I think you're right with Polyakov, isn't it?
I want to say that's my gut instinct.
I'm
but like
sure
he does
that's right.
Yeah, Martin Polyakov. Yeah, I was right. So he does like a parody of him to begin with, talking about the chemistry. But he also does like Tom Scott. He does Vsauce, CGP Grey, and Destin from Smarter Every Day. And it is so good. Like his Destin in particular. Like every time like an impersonation started, I was like, yes. And he does Bill Wirtz. He does like a Bill, and like I was like, oh,
awesome.
This is. I will include a link in the show notes. I implore you, but that is both Dan and the readers. I implore you to watch this, especially because I'm guessing if you know my videos, you probably watch a lot of science on YouTube. It's just so good. It is so well done. I just wanted to rant about that. It's the feeling I got when I watched Bill Wirtz's History of the World. It's one of these things that's like I just want to retire because I will never produce anything this good. And it just like completely blew me away. So Captain Disillusion is just mwah. That's what I've been watching basically. So over to you. What have you been watching?
Well, I've been a little bit obsessed with watching videos of the John Wilson Orchestra on YouTube.
Of course, we've all been there.
John Wilson's a sickeningly talented conductor. There's a great video of him conducting one of the scores to Tom and Jerry at the Proms,
okay,
which is unbelievable. But then he's a big fan of like classic, like the American songbook. So he did the MGM Overture, which is basically a selection of like 12 of some of the most famous. It's in one big medley. But it's fantastic, and you'll get stuff from what was that massive one set in Rome?
The Roman Empire?
Ben-Hur?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's some stuff from there. There's some stuff from, I think, Hello Dolly. It's really good. Basically, I'm watching it from a musical perspective because he's just such a masterful conductor. It's like he's got a very similar style to Gardner when you watch him conduct, and that just. He's so ergonomic with his movement, but gets absolutely everything out of the orchestra that's necessary. It's fantastic. So I was watching that. I rewatched the live action Jungle Book.
Oh! Because we went to see that together in the first place, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, but it's on Netflix. So I watched that yesterday, which was nice. So that was pretty cool. And then I've also started watching a really good documentary that I for the other evening, for maybe about half an hour, I crashed the Discord.
Was this without me?
Kind of jumped in and said I wasn't in the voice chat. I was just kind of messaging away for a little bit, and then I said, right, I've got to be off. I just thought I'd pop in and say hello. We were talking, and I've been watching this documentary called Wild Wild Country,
right? Which
is it's really hard to kind of explain what it is. But let me. I'm going to look it up and try and describe it to you. It's really well made. I think it's 8 or 9 episodes, and each episode goes for about an hour and a bit. So it's clearly it's like a huge effort in making this thing. Wild Wild Country is a Netflix documentary series based on the controversial Indian guru Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. And it was this. It started off in India, and then they moved to America and bought this land in, I think, Ohio. No,
America and then Ohio, notedly
somewhere.
Not part of America.
Yeah. They basically had to move out of India because they were trying the guru and the kind of this self-proclaimed prophet who, well, to prophet to a degree, he never claimed that he was God, but he didn't also agree he was the second coming, but he kind of had this weird, it received a lot of press attention at the time for being like a sex cult, and it was all very strange, but they ended up buying this land and building their own city from scratch in the middle of nowhere, literally. And when I say building a city, I mean a legitimate city. They then ended up trying to become their own independent state. I can't believe I'd never heard of them before, but it's genuinely a fascinating watch.
What were they called again?
Rajneesh. So that's if you search Rajneesh. The guru was kind of affectionately known as Osho, I think. But yeah, he was the leader of the Rajneesh movement, comprises persons inspired by the Indian mystic Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, also known as Osho, particularly initiated disciples who are referred to as neo-sannyasins or simply sannyasins. They used to be known as Rajneeshis or orange people because of the orange and later red, maroon and pink clothes they used from 1970 until 1985. So they all basically kind of dressed the same. But like it was really, really. Oh, Oregon, that's right. They moved to Oregon and bought this huge patch of land called Rajneeshpuram.
Right.
And like the amount of shit that went down was insane. They were they were accused of poisoning, putting like poison in the water to try and change time, like the numbers who could turn out for voting things, because basically the US were trying to get them out. The FBI were investigating them, and I'm only like 3 episodes in of these 9, and it's really good. So if you want just something to flick on, you can almost treat it like a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, and it's on Netflix.
Like if you're doing some editing, and so it's called Wild Wild Country. You've got to give it the benefit of the doubt because it starts really just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, it's a kind of weird, almost kind of like a cult, but not blah blah blah. But it's honestly, it's really interesting. You get like an episode and a bit in, and suddenly you're like, hang on, what? This, like, how have I never heard of this cult?
So
before?
I've been looking for a replacement for Making a Murderer, so I feel like this could be it. I think this might be my new watch.
Oh well, you'll love this.
Awesome. Well,
it's really, really well made.
Well, given how so Dan, I think you have to be gone in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Should we take a quick leap into Patreon Corner and do a very, very quick Patreon Corner? Top lad.
No. Scratch that. That's not happening. I need to be out of this house in literally 20 minutes. We're going to go through this. Guys, we'd normally do our world-renowned, incredibly witty and banterous and well thought through skits. But this week, we're really, really short for time. So I'm afraid we can't do that, but we didn't want to skip out this section because our patrons mean a lot to us. And we love you all dearly. So without further ado, we'd like to say some thank yous to those who are our top lads and are kind of helping this podcast survive, basically.
Oh no! I've just noticed something. Okay, carry on as you were. Carry on. You'll see what I mean in a minute.
Okay. Oh, I'm excited. I think I know what it might be. We've got some thank yous to make. So thank yous to Henry Brewster, Lewis Watson, Eric Davis, Tyler Rooker, Billy Toulson,
Elliot Conway, Ben McMurtry, David Scahill, The Moustache Man, Habiba Amjad,
Dan Hanvey, Connor Levers.
Oh, that's
Lachlan
Levers.
Woods.
He corrected us on that last time. Sorry, because it was like Kronk pull the lever, not Kronk pull the lever. Apparently.
Okay.
So there you go. Connor Levers.
It's lever.
Yeah, apparently.
Connor Levers, Lachlan Woods, John Mannion, Nicholas,
Luke Thatcher, Simon Torseth, Alex Greer, Geordie Eschendahl, Miles Cornfeld,
Matt Maguire, Emma Kavanagh, Jay Wright, Angela, and Kieran Kelly.
Wonderful Stephen, Tapio Kirkinen, Davi Shram Vontabel, Simon Vase, and Azagu Nagapan Nagasaravanan. We're very sorry that we had to rush through this, but we thought it would be much worse to just not do this section. So next time,
exactly.
Dan's got to go somewhere, and also we've had a bunch of technical difficulties. My West Country internet has been crapping out left, right, and centre this episode. So we are very sorry, but that is why this week it's not as dramatic as normal. But I say it's not as dramatic as normal because I am remiss to report.
I'm so sad. I can't believe
Team Cat
it.
are being supported by 23 patrons.
This is it.
And Team Dog is being supported by 25 patrons.
Come on! Yes!
For the first time.
I knew we could do it. I knew we'd get there.
For the first time in this
I'm
podcast
sorry for
history.
Simon's going to have to edit that audio. That is going to be the peakiest my audio has ever been, but it's worth it. Team Dog, you're amazing. I knew we'd get there. I had faith from the very beginning. Team Cat, suck a dick.
Suck my dick, Team Cat. No.
Gracious in victory, as per.
Now, Team Cat, we know what we have to do here. We are the just look at a cat. You know that it's superior. And what we need to now do is actually move off the sofa, move off of the little bed, and be like, fine, stretch, and then wander over and donate $1 a month to the patreon.com/the Wikicast, putting it under Team Cat, because this is unacceptable. We got lazy. We rested on our laurels, and now we have paid the price. And it's like that film Cats vs. Dogs with Jeff Goldblum, but worse, if that's even possible. So, cat lovers of the world, unite. I will not stand for this. I don't like losing, all right? Get behind this!
Team Dog, it's fine. I had faith in you from the very beginning. I said we'd get there. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right.
Good boy. Top lad. So, leading on from Patreon Corner, there was a name for it, we decided, wasn't there? It was Conferences Corner, I think was what was suggested, which I quite like. We are now going to move on into Correspondence Corner. Again, we're very pushed for time, so I'd just like to note we do have another fan fiction, The Virtual Adventures of Simon and Dan Chapter 2, which I really enjoyed doing the sound editing for last time. I tried to be a bit ambitious with putting lasers in it and alien roars and stuff like that, so I really hope that this isn't going to be too difficult, but I will try and do the same for this one. We do have a fan fiction, but we don't again have time to read it this week, so we're going to dive straight in. I just want to immediately say an amazing thank you to Johannes Gneers, not quite sure how you're supposed to pronounce that surname, who has sent us I think my favourite fan art we've ever been sent. Which is what I asked for from the last time round, the last episode, me being a fantasy priest with a massive hammer, smashing the bridge that we're on, shouting, "The gods will decide our fate!" And the thing I love the most about this is the depiction of Dan, because it's perfect. Like I'm like a muscly samurai warrior with a massive hammer. How would you describe you in this fan art, Dan?
Well, just a fun little thing there that just happened. My entire laptop nearly crashed, but I just subtly joined back the call.
I didn't even notice.
My laptop fans just went mental. I opened up Activity Monitor and Google Chrome had a CPU leak of 65. So I was just like, for fuck's sake. What email am I looking at?
This is Johannes Gneers. This is, I think, the best fan fiction we've ever been sent.
Oh my god. Oh my god!
Yeah!
The gods will decide our fate.
It's you. How would you describe you in this part?
I look like some kind of like wood elf.
Yes.
Some kind of sprite. Kind of fantastic forehead on there. I love it.
It's so perfect. That is my favourite depiction of you. I think that's amazing. That trumps you being drawn as a porg. You had us as chibi form, like in a little kind of cute. I put this on our fan Facebook page, by the way. Sorry, our official Facebook page. If you want to see it, check that out. But all of our fan art is on there. I think that is my favourite ever depiction of Dan. That's awesome. I've just got to draw attention to that. That is amazing. Also, thank you for giving me such a muscly torso. I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. Thick boy. Also, thank you, Johannes, for your little postscript saying Star Wars Episode 8 is absolute Huna Kaka. Yeah. Completely agree.
We've got an email here from Ethan. It's titled Best Podcast. It says, Dear Messrs Moore and Clark, I'm a long-time listener, first-time correspondent, and I'm loving the podcast. It's the highlight of my week. Aww. Anyway, I'm approaching the time where I need to narrow down the list of unis to apply for and was wondering what aspects you guys considered. Also, sorry, Simon, but Team Dog all the way.
It's
Ethan,
him.
16 and 5/8.
Ethan, I mean, good fraction, good compound fraction, but he is the reason for Team Cat's downfall. I know it. When applying to uni... Ethan. When applying to uni, I was very stupid. I basically just looked at league tables. I was like, I want to go to the best university.
That's what I did for English and Classics with Exeter.
And that's a very stupid way of doing it. I think an important thing to do is to identify the unis that I think league tables can help. Like, I think if you look at the top 20 for your subject or something, like you want to go to somewhere that is respected. But on top of that, go to the universities wherever possible and walk around and just see if it feels like you could live there. Because at the end of the day, it's a town and a university that is going to be your home for the next 3 or 4 or however many years it's going to be. That is the single most important factor, I think. It's can you see yourself living there and feeling at home? Because you don't want to go somewhere, it kind of harkens back to what we were talking about earlier. You don't want to go somewhere where you're going to feel alien, like other. That's important for sure. I mean, what else do you think is important?
Other things about uni, yeah, I think I would definitely consider the kind of the extracurricular things that the uni has going for it. Music was obviously really important for me, so I looked at what music was going on at Exeter. Fortunately, there's loads, but then equally just seeing what your life would be like living in that part of the country. So, you know, the other universities I looked at weren't so close to a fairly major city. So there would always be plenty of stuff to do, plenty of places to go. Think about where you're going to be.
I think the other thing to mention is that you're never going to make a fully informed decision because it's changing your life and you have no experience of making this change before. So, like, at the end of the day, it's going to be a certain amount of guesswork. I feel reconcile yourself to the fact that it is going to be part guesswork. And, you know, the best you can do is try and base it off other people's experiences. So now, because we live in 2018, YouTube the uni and see if there are vloggers at the uni. You know, I could definitely say there are at Exeter, and there are at Oxford and Cambridge. See what life is like for them. If possible, talk to students, especially if you're going to the campus. Get a sense from them what their life is like, and at the end of the day, go with your gut. I think is probably the best thing you can do. We've got a happy little email here from George M, which is titled "Just a Nice Little Email." Dear Dan, etc. Prick.
Oh, God's sake! Hecking only George.
It's just
what are you doing?
It's just a picture of what do you even call that? When you have your thumb and touching your forefinger.
So it's like an OK. It's like the upside down OK, international symbol for OK.
And if you look at it
on your
gay.
thigh, yeah.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George. That's great, mate. Cheers.
I mean, I already knew Dan was gay. He's having a gay old time on this podcast, is what I mean.
A gay old time.
We'll have a gay old time.
There you go. We've got an email here from Nick Webster, subjected as just saying, as a Kiwi, it hurt my soul to score a try for Australia in the top lag segment. Luckily, I'm a masochist. Love the show, Nick. Oh, sorry, Nick. Sorry about that.
As a Kiwi, it hurt my soul to score a try for Australia. It's in my head is Korg from Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
That's what Doug used to say.
Luckily, I'm a masochist.
He always used to score tries for Australia. I don't know what my accent's doing. I think I should be banned from accents from now on. Then lastly, we have a happy little email from Renelle Weber. Weber? I don't know. I don't know the nationality. But Rinell, great name, incidentally. I like that. Titled Sirens, Canadian Slang, Nuclear Reactions, etc. Hey guys, neutral, playing it safe. Long-time reader of the Wikicast, most recently listening whilst driving to and from work. The other day, I was pleasantly listening to the podcast while driving home when all of a sudden there were sirens blaring at me and I could not figure out where they were coming from. Turns out it was just the newest Top Lad corner of the podcast in episode 26. So thanks for that mini freak out.
Jesus, while you were driving too.
I might just include, somewhere in this episode, I'm going to include a random air horn. And it was because of you, Rinell. It's just like, it's going to be like the Clegane Bowl. What do you hear? What do you see? A mountain. And I hear air horns. Clegane Bowl needs to be a thing. I'm so excited for that trash in the next episode, the next season of Game of Thrones. It will never happen in the books, but the TV series is trashy enough that it will definitely happen. Anyway, so that explains the random air horn. Also, as a Canadian reader, I thought I'd offer a few more Canadian terms and slang to add to your vocabularies. I like this. We have like an Australian contingent, and we have quite a vocal Canadian contingent on the show. So, a few bits of slang. A toque. A toque? I guess that's toque. That's Toque.
Yes, a toque.
A winter hat. I thought a toque was a blunt. That's like another name for a blunt.
Okay.
I don't know. That's spelled like Toke. But anyway, a double, toil and trouble. A coffee with 2 creams and 2 sugars. A double. I quite like that. I don't even drink coffee, and I kind of wish I could use that. And Rinell's personal favourite, a bunny hug. That's the name for a sweater or a hoodie. I like that.
That's great.
I'm just going to put my bunny hug on, eh?
Eh?
Yeah, I think the full version of that is bunny hug, eh? I like that a lot. That's cute. The past couple of episodes, you've been chatting about how people would react in response to a nuclear attack. We have. And it reminded me of the book Barometer Rising by Hugh MacLennan. It's a novel based on a true story of a small Canadian town that experienced a similar, though not nuclear, explosion during World War I. Oh, I wonder if that's the Halifax explosion. Because that was the most powerful explosion in history until nuclear testing. It was this horrific incident. So Rinell read it during her English degree and would highly recommend it. One question for Dan. I'm not sure if you've mentioned it before, but what are your plans with your English degree? I graduated last year and I'm planning to pursue my Masters of Library and Information Science. Ooh, that's cool. Next year. I'm always curious what other English students are up to. So, Dan, floor is yours. What's the plan, Dan?
Well, I'll be graduating at Exeter with a degree in classical studies and English literature, and then the plan would be, unless I'm sick of academia for a bit, and then might just work for a year, I'd like to do a master's, but purely in English, not classics. Probably with something to do with the romantic period.
Is that between dinner and bed, or is that like?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
It's the taxi ride home where you're looking in each other's eyes. That's what the Masters is going to be on.
Yeah. So I'd like to do that, but I don't know where that would be. If it can be elsewhere next to than Exeter, then that'd be kind of cool. But equally, I'd be quite happy to stay. I'd hopefully be able to stay on at the cathedral. So yeah, don't know really,
yes,
but definitely, I think a Masters is on the cards.
Because that is your initial plan is to become a cathedral scholar for the last year of uni, and then that's like potentially a whole new world that opens up. But I have always been curious. I don't think I've ever asked you what the plan was, so I'm quite glad that Rinell's asked on my behalf. Thank you, Rinell. So yeah, she says, thanks for the ever entertaining content. I mean, we try. I don't think this one's been particularly entertaining. I think people got halfway through and are like, oh god, this is really depressing. Why are these 2 white boys talking about racism still? But we try. We try.
Brag about it.
Yeah, no, brag about it. Anyway, thank you. So you're very welcome, Rinell. Rinell W, aged 23 and too lazy to count 365ths. # team dog.
I think that's got to count as a compound fraction.
It does, but and it ties into the fact that she's team dog. I'm assuming Rinell is a female name. We have been told off before for assuming gender. I've never heard that name before.
No.
I'm having a look. What is the meaning of Rinell? Let's have a look. Apparently it is a girl's name, according to babynames.com. Babynamescube.com. It's an African-American baby name. In African-American origin, the meaning of the name Rinell is 2 dots. And apparently,
Wow.
apparently its number is 6. Oh, it's related to royalty. Rainer is king. Reinah is as in like Rynagh is queenly. So maybe Renelle means like princess or something.
Maybe.
Or this could just all be bollocks. I don't know. I've never heard of it. I like the name. I really like Renelle as a name. Yeah, of course they might be male and using a female name. That's absolutely fine. But that's basically me trying to justify just jumping in with the female name assumption. Anyway, is that? I think that's all the time we have actually for emails. So, like I say, we do have a fan fiction, but we will be reading that out not next week because Dan is such a busy boy. There is so much going on that we literally couldn't find a single slot next week to record. So next week's episode, which will be a special. That's going to be fun, actually, because we've got a guest with us and we're going to be reading a fan fiction. The following episode will be in 2 weeks. So not only are we shafting you with a short episode that's really depressing this week, you're also going to have to wait a whole extra week to get an episode with a terrible guest. But more on that in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah. So, Simon, what have we learned today?
Well, Dan, ostensibly, we learned about the permanent representative of Colombia to the United Nations, and also the fact that I couldn't pronounce the word accredited.
Accredited. There you go.
Yeah, we got it in the end. I pocketed it. But that was what we landed on, with thanks to Clark-Tholicism. But we learned that the diplomatic representative also represents, as well as Colombia, Kosovo and Montenegro. And we also learned that the Sovereign Military Order of Malta has permanent observer status at the UN, which means that it's just a bunch of knights who have a bunch of really cool sounding dudes in charge. And apparently they actually do pretty legit sounding medical work, irrespective of religion, which is, gotta say, that was a nice surprise at the end of that article. So that was what we talked about. We talked about the whole scandal at Exeter for quite a while, because it is a very serious topic and we wanted to give it, appropriate
due consideration.
Yeah, consideration. And we would like to invite you, if you're a BME student at Exeter, to write in, and we would love to showcase your opinions and use this platform as an agent of change, because we are limited in what we could talk about.
Yeah, likewise, if you're another student of another university, or someone who in the workplace has had to encounter something of similar similar gravitas, then email in. It's ultimately, it comes down to the fact that Simon and I are ill-equipped to truly discuss this topic, so it makes sense for us really to use this more as a forum for you guys to talk about it, and for us to learn something on the way.
And whilst you're considering stuff to email in, do send us in emails for 2 weeks' time, because we have a guest with us. Not going to reveal who that is. I know plenty of you know who it is anyway, but please do send your emails in. Also, it would be great to have a good crisis corner. So if you are a reader in crisis, if you have an issue that you'd like for us to talk about with the guest, we will anonymise everything that's sent. Just make sure you include crisis corner in your subject line, and I think that is my favourite part of the podcast, delving into that. So please do send those in. We had a super brief Patreon corner. Again, apologies for that. We'll make up for it next time. And we had a super brief correspondence corner. So it was quite a varied episode. Short, but sweet. Well, it wasn't really sweet. It was short, but plagued with racism, really. But short and informative, hopefully.
And that's all for this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. You can like us on Facebook. And if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channels, Spongy and Electric.
BME student experiences, crises, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Incidentally, Dan forgot that email earlier when he was trying to sign into the Patreon. He was like, we spell spongy with an E, don't we? How many episodes have we done of this, Dan?
Literally, we've been going for too many. I think my brain's just not working, much like my laptop is at the moment too. It's just my brain is leaking, like my CPU.
Your brain is leaking and your laptop's cleared for takeoff. That's where we're at the moment.
Yeah. Join us again for another tumble down the Ricky Wabbit Bowl.
This whole episode is a shit show.
I just can't. I'm literally, all I've got going through my head is being like, oh, do I have all the music in my bag for I'm going to be going through until like chapel rehearsal tonight at 6. So it's going to be hours of just, anyway, right.
You're not accredited. You're not accredited with the appropriate skills.
This has been such a fucking train wreck. Like, what even is this?
Why? I'm grabbing the microphone right now. Readers, why? Why do you listen to us?
You're too good to us. Seriously. Thank you. Thank you for putting up for our just inane babble. Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole, and we'll see you next time.
Anything else like to go wrong? Please step forward. Roll up, roll up. Technical difficulties. Behold, the amazing shite internet connection. The woman with a beard. Ed's bag of hair.